Hey everybody, it's Hit Rewind the mixtape, where me and John take basically our top 10 favorite albums of the year and discuss them back and forth. One rule is we cannot repeat an album, which sometimes can be torturous because 87 was rough for me because let's just say this era of music until like 92, 93 is going to be really hard for me. And I thought of a couple albums. You're like, oh damn it, he got them too. So I had to come with something else. But this is, I'm going to apologize. This is the year where I literally was like just grasping for anything. I can't remember a lot of the songs. It's rough. So I apologize if this episode isn't as good as the previous ones. Maybe John can carry us over the breach.
Well, we'll see what happens.
All right.
Definitely some interesting stuff there that came out.
All right, so where do you want to start? You want to go with number one? Or, no, we never do that. We do, how do we do this usually? I haven't done this in a while. I forgot our pattern.
It bounces back and forth from I do one, you do one. Okay. But I don't remember if we kind of randomly set a pattern.
I think we just randomly. What
are we
talking
about? Did one show and then, I don't remember if we actually ever consciously thought about that. So if you want, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
All right, because my first one is Ice-T's Rhyme Pays.
This one was a surprise to me. When I saw this, I was like, is this an accident?
No, that's the thing is, this is about the point in time where rap becomes something that I enjoy. Like, I enjoy the, some of the gangster rap stuff. Basically, it's like late 80s, and then up to about mid to late 90s. And then from there, I kind of fall off with the exception of maybe like one or two particular artists here or there. But it's like, people who I like, I will follow. But, it's harder for me to enjoy a wider range or just, it's never been something that's hooked me as well.
Right.
But like Ice-T's, this is his first album, and it's so interesting because it balances this gangster rap stuff with tracks like, it's like he's got basically kind of like the, not necessarily the first gangster rap song, although technically he does have the, I think it's literally the second record ever released that was a gangster rap song, because that was 6 in the Morning.
For me, next year is my rap year, and you're going to have all the cool stuff. I'm going to have all the family-friendly PG stuff that was on MTV. Now, retroactively, I would go, I think this is the year the first Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff album comes out, Rock the House, but it just isn't good enough, and I had Cruisin', I believe, Crushin' from Fat Boys. But I would buy them later. But neither one of them held up. I listened to them; they're fine, but they're just not. They wouldn't make my top 10.
Yeah, and that's the thing is this is a really well balanced album where it's like, you said you got a couple of gangster rap songs, 6 in the Morning, Squeeze the Trigger, Somebody's Got to Do It, Pimpin' Ain't Easy. But it's also got a little more of what would be like the more commercial rap sound as well, because you have Make It Funky and 409. 409, it's like one of those childhood rhyming songs where it's like the end of the line is going to be a swear, but it's not really because it's the start of a new sentence.
Yeah.
So it's not actually dirty.
Right. Yeah, this is the sound I don't really care for. For me, I don't like gangster rap. I'm more of a hip hop guy, and once you get to around 90, 91, you're going to be right in that sweet spot for me.
Well, and that's the thing. It's especially with Ice-T, he's the person I know best in the of the Ices, especially. But in kind of I kind of fell into his stuff in the first 3 or 4 albums. I think are absolutely tops, totally killer stuff.
Yeah.
But it's I kind of fell into his way, kind of backwards, because. A friend of mine that I worked with a long time ago had the Body Count album, and the actual original release of it with Cop Killa on it. And so it's I listened to that album, and it's very hardcore and very intense in many ways, but it also you can hear the sense of humor that he has about some of these topics.
Yeah, I think he's really funny. Like his tweets are always like really on just on the nose when it comes to like commenting on terrible behavior.
Yeah, well, it's like even on this album, you have Squeeze the Trigger is a great track that satirizes how quickly people are to blame things like music for violence without actually looking for this, actual causes or social causes behind it.
Right.
And it's including like all these statements about like how cops are killing kids with warning shots and stuff, and it's just kind of it is so horribly still true, and it's still such a relevant song today, and it's just one of those things where it's heck, you have all these messages and stuff like that can be conveyed, even if it's somewhat harsh. Sometimes I think people really should hear it.
What's funny is the very first rap track I ever heard was from Ice-T from the Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo track, the cassette I had.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like he definitely kind of started a little more commercial, and then kind of found his way in into this emerging genre.
Well, remember he was dressed like in the early '80s rap. There was a lot of that Mad Max vibe, the wild and crazy look, and then it kind of toned down in the late half of the '80s.
Well, yeah. Well, he had very much like if you look on the cover of the album, it's very much the kind of South Central Pimpin' Ain't Easy sort of look to him, but it's like it's the sort of thing where it's like, yeah, he's of a lot of this genre. I think he's one of the people who definitely had a clear concept of what he wanted to do and ran with it for a good amount of time. So definitely, I hold my thumbs up. I enjoy this album quite a bit.
All right. So my next choice, first choice, not next, is going to be Boingo, the 1987 album by Oingo Boingo. The last album I think that is really pretty damn good, but they changed their sound on this one a lot, and it's missing what was so magical about everything before it. It's like he wanted to go mainstream, and he ditched a lot of the ska, wild and crazy, like aggressive sound. This one's a lot more pleasant, and I don't think it works as well, but it's still listenable.
Well, the thing is fun is, I'm pretty sure Oingo Boingo has to be your favorite band, because we've literally done all of their albums except one.
Yeah. Which one was it? I don't think we skipped any. I think we skipped the Danny Elfman album solo.
No, we did skip the Danny Elfman album, and there was one other one. I want to say it's like the fourth album or something like that. There is one that we did not do.
After this, there's a couple good tracks, but their albums just don't have that sound that I'm looking for. But yes, I would say they're in my top 5 easily.
Yeah, and just the album didn't really hit me that well. Like, I've been loving all the other albums that we listened to, and then this one just kind of,
Yeah.
Although,
do you know what's
where
different?
Where do all my friends go?
It's funny.
Oh, what's that?
Well, I just think about the tracks from the previous album. So many of them ended up in movies. These tracks sound like they were made for movies. You know what I mean? Like they were sell this out on a soundtrack. Unlike the other stuff, which was cool, and someone just said, "Hey, let's add this to our movie." All of these seem like they would be themes in some movie, some teen movie.
Yeah. Like, one of the songs that I think really hit me the most was "Where Do All My Friends Go?" Because it's like this upbeat yet kind of chill song compared to a lot of the others, compared to almost anything Boingo did. But it's like, We Close Our Eyes is all right. Not My Slave is okay, but
I like that. That one's I've heard so many times. We Close Our Eyes, oddly enough, I knew that song by Susanna Hoffs from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. She had remade it.
I'd have to see the film again, or at least hear her take. It's been a while, but I'm sure I would recognize it.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot. Like Pain was a good one. That one's more like their old stuff. But yeah, most of it, I don't know what to say. It's a fine listen, but you can tell the cracks in what made them such a great band were starting to show up.
Yeah, this is definitely feeling like, because at this point, Danny Elfman has started doing film soundtracks, so he's kind of finding success in another career. So having a band kind of maybe isn't his focus anymore.
Right. All right, your turn.
Alrighty. Let's go ahead and take a look at Mojo Nixon and Skip Roper's Bodacious.
Shocked to see this one on the list. And it's a lot of fun.
I'll be honest. Part of me really thinks I should have done the previous one because it has Debbie Gibson gave birth by two-headed love child and his amazing cover of This Land Is Your Land. But I mean, I had to put it. Elvis Is Everywhere is one of the best things ever. You know, I even if the rest of this album was garbage, I would have picked this album anyway because of just the strength of Elvis Is Everywhere.
Right. Yeah, it's a rockabilly weirdo. It's a kitsch kind of. The whole album it's a lot of fun. Mojo Nixon has always had kind of a fan following, but he's never really broken through besides that song.
Yeah. Well, he did show up. If you're a 90s kid, you know Mojo Nixon as Toad in the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he shows up briefly and sings a little bit of a song, doesn't act very well, and then gets turned into a Goomba. But yeah, this is just a fun album, and that's the thing. Like it's hard to say if it's quote unquote good because it's depending on how you are. Because there's some stuff that kind of feels a little dated and stuff, and I love the song "Don't Want No Foo-Foo Haircut on My Head." Such a goofy rant. It definitely, we know what he's talking about with like the flock of seagulls type haircuts, and basically the condemnation of new romantic style. But it also kind of feels like he's being very kind to avoid saying words that could get him in trouble at times. Yep. It feels like, you got like wash dishes no more shows us the future, basically what the modern libertarian future would be like. With this, oh God, I didn't go into the notes in general, but I thought we're doing this a little bit sooner than when I wrote it. I should listen to the song again. But yeah, this album's so much fun. It's a goofy ass album.
Yeah.
Love it. So what you got?
All right, next is Faith No More with Introduce Yourself. It's not their debut album, but because the first album was so barely released that they combined the best tracks from that with this album, and it's not the sound that you really know when you think of Faith No More because Mike Patton doesn't join till the next album. But I think there's a lot of fun with I don't know the original singer's name, but there's kind of a goofy, off-the-wall kind of charm. The way that, you know how there was the whole, there's Red Hot Chili Peppers and Fishbone, like that kind of bouncy punk sound with funk and weirdness. It had that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I kind of strain my brain to think if I know any Faith No More song beyond Epic, Midlife Crisis, and We Care a Lot. And honestly, I don't think I've actually ever heard a whole Faith No More album, which is weird because I could have sworn I've heard Angel Dust. I could have sworn I've heard The Real Thing, but I rack my brain and going, I can't think of any other songs but those three. Granted, I'm pretty sure I did hear Soul Invictus, the last album they did, and I didn't like it.
Oh, I liked it.
So,
have you heard King for a Day? No. Your Last Cup of Sorrow. Last Cup of Sorrow.
I guarantee I've definitely not heard.
Okay, that was a really their big epic. Well, they always kind of go for a big epic sound, but they spent so much money on that video, and it's a pretty good song, but it didn't do anything for the album. But this one is a totally different feel. So what did you think of this kind of bouncy weirdness?
I was digging it. I was really digging it. Now, We Care a Lot is definitely the best song off the album, and it kind of fits along with the Chumbawamba album that I did.
Yeah. Well, there's also, I want to
definitely...
say, it's not as layered as it would get with the next, with Mike Patton joining, because Anne's song and Introduce Yourself are the other two singles that I know from this really well. But there is a lot of repetition, a lot of just like wandering. It's not really a pop song.
Well, it's like the song that really I have like the most notes on is Crab Song, which I felt started shitty, and it started going, and it basically just kind of went nowhere. And then all of a sudden, it picks up and becomes pretty fucking cool. Like, I felt like it has way too long of a build up to where it goes, but damn, does it go somewhere? I like it.
Good.
In that regard.
All right, your turn.
All right, we are going to do Pink Floyd's A Momentary Lapse of Reason.
I forgot about this album. I know the songs, but for some reason I completely forgot that they even I thought there was a big gap between whatever the 82 album was and Pulse. I didn't remember this album.
Well, that's the thing. Is actually, this is the first album released after the founding member and bassist, lyricist, co-lead singer Roger Waters left. Because, like, there's a whole thing between the band, mostly between David Gilmour and Roger Waters. And basically, during the 83 album, The Final Cut, all this just kind of came to a head. Because, effectively, The Final Cut basically just was a Roger Waters solo record. Because he took complete control of the writing. He didn't allow David Gilmour to finish any of the songs he was working on. So, they kind of drifted a little bit, and then Waters left Floyd and just, basically tried to screw him out of royalties and the name.
Wow,
he basically tried to destroy he tried to destroy Pink Floyd. But it all got settled out of court. But you want to know the irony of that? This record is?
What?
Basically, it's a David Gilmour solo album. Because it was just him and the drummer Nick Mason, and then just a bunch of studio musicians.
Yeah, it's very relaxing. Very, it's so different than a lot of the stuff that was on your list that it threw me for a loop.
Yeah, well, this year is definitely. I kind of felt like I have a build up to something, but this is definitely a lot more laid back year than anything else. Huh?
Yeah. Seriously, I'm looking at my list right now. I'm looking at my list and I'm like, I don't remember even listening to a couple of these albums. Fuck.
But that's the thing. It's like this album. It's a lot more conventional and a lot less pretentious. Because let's be honest, Roger Waters really started jerking himself off near the end of it. Like, I love The Wall, but Jesus Christ, is there a lot of issues in The Wall, and Final Cut. I don't think Final Cut's even that listenable, really. Like, it's so much just a guy's head stuck up his ass, more so than anything else.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Pink Floyd a little more, there's some 70s Floyd feel, but mostly it's, it's fairly conventional songs. Learning to Fly is fantastic. On Turning Away actually felt like it could have been on The Wall. One Slip is great, but Sorrow is truly the best, is like my favorite track off that thing. Such a good album. And kind of a shame that it's effectively not their last album, but like I think there's 2 more albums left that they do, and that's it. Then they're effectively done.
Yeah. You ever wonder if any of those albums from Paul still, the Little Red Light's still going? I was just thinking about that. Oh my god, it's been 25 years, this thing's still going. Oh my god.
Oh no, that's as long as they record some of those lengthy songs, it would actually be like a Fish album or something like that. Probably still under production.
My next album is Electric by The Cult. I literally have nothing to say, except I like the band. I don't remember a single fucking song except for the terrible cover of Born to Be Wild, but everything else was fine. I told you I'm struggling. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. It's like, I don't have a lot of notes on this one either. It's a much more hard rock oriented album, and it's by design because they were working with Rick Rubin. You know, Love Removal Machine, Aphrodisiac Jacket, Little Devil, Outlaw. It's all good. You know, it's a solid album. You're right. The cover isn't the best. Not the worst mistake any band has ever made doing a cover, but just kind of, yeah, good for you guys. But this is, ironically, the only record I own. Like, a physical vinyl record.
Oh, wow.
This is the only one that I have.
I didn't know that.
So, as you can kind of tell, I like the album.
Yes.
I was willing to pay money to cart it around for California for a good 10 years now.
Your turn.
All right, my next album is gonna be notes loading. Depeche Mode's Music for the Masses.
Yeah, I thought about adding this one to my list too. It was really good.
Now, we are inching ever closer to the Depeche Mode that everyone actually knows. And, you know, this album still does have that industrial edge that some of those previous albums have. They're starting to get sounded off a little bit. I mean, you got Pimp is a really hard and dark song, you know, but, you know, like Little 15 is a wonderfully haunting track. But, yeah, it's starting to get a little more lighter. But that's funny, is it didn't actually do well in the UK, but it did very well internationally, which actually allowed them to be one of the few bands to play in communist East Germany.
Okay.
They also had an extremely successful tour in the U.S., which let them play Strangelove at the '88 MTV Music Awards, which really got them a foothold into the States, like even more so than before. All of a sudden, now they're on MTV. They're on MTV on the big stage, and next album is the one that then, of course, broke them big. So, your thoughts on the album if you were
None. I got none. It was just a really good album. I enjoyed it. There's nothing I need. Here's the thing that needs to change about the show. He's prepared. I'm not. I usually listen to these while I'm working out and I don't make notes. And I just try to remember. We were supposed to do this a week ago, but I got sick. And in that time I went on vacation and thought of other things, and I forgot a lot. All I have is the list of albums that I chose, and that's it.
Oh, you.
I know. I swear. Okay, 1988. We gotta change it up. I gotta be more professional.
Yeah, I bring notes and I do research.
I'm literally I'm looking at Wikipedia just to remind me. That's it, though. I got nothing to say.
But okay, well, your next album then.
Pleased to Meet Me by The Replacements, their breakthrough, which a lot of the hardcore fans hate because they had a more mainstream sound. Whatever.
Oh, I wasn't I didn't dig the album all that much.
Oh, here's the thing. It's a
like,
fine album, but it has my single favorite song ever, ever, ever. And that's Can't Hardly Wait. That is my absolute 100% top song ever. And I love Alex Chilton. No, that in both of them. So that's really it. Just those two songs, and we can move on if you want.
Well, no. It's like I knew the song Alex Chilton going into the album, and I dig that song. IOU is a good toe tapper, but goes a little bit too long. Same thing with I Don't Know. It's like it kind of feels like some of these songs really only had like a minute or two of actual content that then got extended.
Mm-hmm.
But you had like Nightclub Jitters is good, but it's like such a different type of song. But it's like it's one of those things where, you know, it's one of these things where there's stuff I like off the album, but they aren't songs I think transcend and improve the rest of it. So it's like the really good stuff doesn't really make the okay stuff better. Which, you know, I didn't feel there's anything overly bad about it. It's just one of those things where, although I guess I should amend the statement I wrote, but if you're a fan of the band, you should like this album, or at least you have more of a connection to it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just that one song that fucking blows me away every time, and it just gets so revved up and hopeful, and then the world reminds me it's not that great. But for that 4 minutes of that song, I'm in.
Well, it kind of felt like this album was like a commentary on pop rock of the era, instead of being a pop rock album of the era.
Right.
Like, it's watered down, it's harmless, instead of something that, like, they felt like they put their heart and soul into completely. And it feels like...
Well, it's almost as if it's so cheeky and winking that it does... Well, that's a weird thing to say. That they forgot to actually put... how am I trying to say this? When something's trying to be satirical, but sometimes it's only about the satire and it forgets what it's really trying to say?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And maybe that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Part of me thinks that it felt like it should have been more. But then again, why? I think we did one album of theirs previous to this as
the
well.
Replacements really are a greatest hits band. Like, it's legitimate. I hate it when people are like, you're not a fan if you only have their greatest hits. Fuck you. I just don't want to waste my time with the other stuff. I can still be a fan.
Kiss literally is only the greatest hits. Right?
And they have a massive fan base, and I'm guaranteeing you half their album sales are just greatest hits collections.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's like, I don't know why I want more out of the album. I mean, it's like going into things where I'm effectively going in blind in some cases. I shouldn't, be like, I swear, I'm not going into these albums with my arms crossed going, prove to me.
But here's the thing, is we do that with movies, and no one ever says anything. We go in blind to all of these movies unless it's part of a franchise, and we don't know what our expectations are beyond a trailer. That's the same thing with an album and one song. That song is the trailer to get you to listen to the whole album.
Exactly, yeah. The singles off the radio are your trailers, or things that's trying to sell you on this. And, yeah, it's like... I don't know why I feel like I have higher expectations for this album, but I seem, for whatever reason, I kind of feel like I did. I think
it's because of all the acclaim, the hardcore fans that have been going for decades, and that puts something in the back of your mind, if you know anything about the Replacements.
And again, probably also because I like Alex Chilton, so it's like, okay, the song is from this album. I might like this album.
Yeah.
But then again, we did Crowded House, and I totally was blown away because it wasn't what I thought it was.
Yeah, so that's the weird, it's a discovery show, basically. A lot of these albums I've never actually listened to. I've only know some of the songs, and I kind of like the band's vibe, so I'll go and check out the album. Sometimes it fails horribly, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, like I have actually started listening to a lot more of Utopia since we started this. Like, I don't have any favorite songs, so don't ask me which one's my favorite yet, but it's been something that while I'm gaming, I'll pop in and just let Spotify run random songs.
A Princess of the Universe is the one that just fucking, the hard chord pounder, just the drums. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Where are we at? Your turn.
My turn. It is now The Cure. Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me.
Also was one of my choices. Damn you.
Yeah. So, despite Robert Smith leaving The Cure to be part of Siouxsie and the Banshees for a year or so, The Cure didn't break up. He did come back, and they put out The Top, which is all psychedelic and shit, and you have the kind of transitional Head on the Door, which I honestly don't like. But Kiss Me Cubed has them really going into this like pop sound.
Yeah, it's a new direction for them. It does seem like this is. I think this is why the music's so hard for me in this era, is because what I loved about the early '80s is gone now. The new wave sound. This is more mod rock, and there's so little of it that I have trouble because we're getting a lot of the aggressive metal, the hair metal. The generic synth pop. I just fucking can't. It's gonna be really hard for the next few years.
Well, it's like this is like a fun album because
yes.
This one and then the next two albums, Disintegration and Wish, are really like the three album. Like this era is really my favorite era of The Cure, even though again my heart is my dark gothy Hart loves pornography.
Oh, who doesn't
That's an
love pornography?
phrase.
Wait, is that an album? Did I just confess to something? Shit.
But yeah, he had like Tortures, this great track. It's like seriously, or even that like play Why Can't I Be You or Just Like Heaven and back to back with like 100 Years.
Yes.
And how is this the same band?
I know. It's so interesting.
Hot on Hot has, I love the guitar on that, and there's this little kind of like there's a Devo Oingo Boingo influence on that song. Like this is such a fun, wonderful album.
I can't believe I used to mock them, and I wanted nothing to do with them. I had friends who listened to them, and I was like, nah, man, that doesn't sound like my kind of thing. And then one day, about 5 years ago, I'm sitting there listening to a new wave channel, and he started playing some of this. I was like, that's like the third Cure song I've heard that I've liked. I'm going to go discover what they're all about. And I was pleased.
Yeah, is it? It's this, the late 80s, early 90s is peak Cure. Is everything is working. Everything sounds great. Even the stuff that I hate, because I hate Love Song. I really do.
Oh, is it because 311 ruined it for you?
No. Their cover is a cover. I don't hate the cover. It's just it's as generic as the original song is. So
right.
You would literally have to like fart during the entire song to make the song worse than it is, I guess.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I understand why people love that song and why it's all catchy and shit, but it's not my favorite song off that album, but that album is fucking amazing. Anyway, that's a completely different album than what we're talking about, and this one has Just Like Heaven and Why Can't I Be You, which are tops.
I feel like I need to make a bonus at the end of this episode where I do hand farts and just...
To the beat of Love Song?
Yes. Is it my turn?
All right, now let's go to the next one. What's your next
how
one?
come nobody fucking told me how great Jesus and Mary Chain was? I always thought that there was some sappy, like,
God.
what was the thing, like touchy-feely, emo, but they're fucking awesome. And I just, now, they're probably going to make the list for a while. A few years they're going to make it.
Well, I was going to do them before.
Yeah, I think Psycho Candy was on your list, right?
Yeah, that almost made it, but I held off and I forget what I chose instead. But yeah, I'm not a huge shoegaze person, but like here's my first line of notes. Here we go. There's some of that melancholy shoegaze shit that gives me the best saggasms. Like this is one of the few shoegaze bands that I like, and I love Jesus and Mary Chain. It's not goth necessarily. It lacks kind of the brooding on existential dread and our inevitable death and decay. But it is it's a far more upbeat look at our shared melancholy, and I for one am here for it.
Oh my god. You know what's funny is every time I laugh while you're talking, it comes up in like a little audio burst, so it sounds like you're laughing and I'm laughing at the same time. I'm sorry.
But I'll actually go one step further and go, I kind of see Jesus and the Mary Chain as a precursor to grunge.
Yes, definitely. I see that completely.
Like, I can hear Smashing Pumpkins and Bush in so many of these songs. Like, Speed... let's see, was it Rainy Days? Speed 9 Million Rainy Days up a little bit, and he got 100% have a track off of Siamese Street. April Skies is 100% a Foo Fighters song.
Yeah, well, I can even feel a little bit of Weezer with like Pinkerton in this album.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, whose turn is it? Yours?
That would be my turn next.
I can't remember anything. I drink too much. I'm sorry, everybody.
Oh, I am so disappointed in you. Drinking? Are you drinking while we're doing the show?
Oh, yes, but it's yerba mate, coconut water. It's very delicious and foo-foo. I'm so fancy. Yes.
Because I'm disappointed in you because I'm drinking some Blue Moon Honey Days.
You don't know how easily I get drunk, and I get fucking weird when I'm either high or drunk, and you do not want me recording. Well, you know what? Screw it. Sometime we should. We should just record while I'm taking my little gummies and see how it says it's supposed to be really chatty, but it also makes me kind of like lightheaded and dizzy, so.
Okay. Well, how about this? David Bowie's Never Let Me Down.
This one let me down. Sorry.
Oh, really?
I wasn't into this one at all. I was so bored. I feel like this is Bowie at his big, like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. This is like right when we started doing Tin Machine too, and I don't get these years of Bowie.
Yeah, it's his last album because he quit being a solo artist. He wanted to start a band. He started Tin Machine, which I think I finally have actually listened to Tin Machine, which is okay.
Yeah, I only know Tin Machine because they seem to constantly be on SNL during this time period.
But what's funny is him quitting as a solo artist only lasted till like 93. Well, yeah. I guess technically 92 because he released Real Cool World on the Cool World soundtrack. And if you want to hear me talking all about that stuff, listen to
or Ice Pirates.
But yeah, this was his attempt to kind of get back into a rock and roll sound because previous to this he was doing like
new
80s dance music.
Yeah.
He did Let's Dance and Tonight, and Let's Dance is good. I'm not a fan of Tonight really, but it's like this is day in day out. It's a great opener. It's about homelessness in the U.S. You got New York's in Love about the self-centeredness of people living in the cities. You got 87 and Cry, which is Margaret Thatcher and her time. There's all these songs about stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Good. Give him a cookie.
Pop cover.
I just don't. I'm so bored. I'm sorry. It's not a bad album. It's just when your expectations are raised so much. And for me, I was expecting something really major with this, and I don't know.
I guess my how are you about Bowie's glam period?
I'm fine with it. I prefer his new wave era.
Yeah, because I'm not a fan of the glam stuff. I mean, okay, Ziggy Stardust is fine, but Aladdin Sane and Diamond Dogs, some of that stuff, not really for me.
Yeah,
but it's like
I should have expected this though. I used to have a 2 CD greatest hits collection of his, and once he gets to this era, I couldn't remember any of the songs, so I should have expected it.
Well, it's like I'm a huge fan of his industrial era when he got like Earthling and stuff like that.
I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world.
That was so, oh God, what is it? New Angels of Promise is such an amazing song, but that's in the future.
Yes, the future. All right, my turn.
Your turn.
Diesel and Dust by Midnight Oil. This is a band I just never really broke through except for Beds Are Burning, but I think they had a lot of good singles. But what was most important is that they were able to do the social commentary and just it. A lot of people do it and it's really clumsy, or it's so full of itself that you just don't care. They found a way to make a lot of it very palatable. This isn't their best album. I think the previous one that we discussed. What was that one? No, it wasn't Species.
Well, we haven't talked about them yet. This is the first time.
I am sure we did.
We did not do a Midnight Oil album.
You're fucking kidding.
Well, because that's the thing. Like, I have no connection to Midnight Oil. I'm sure I've heard songs in the past.
Seriously, fact, I thought we did Red Sails and Sunset. Red Sails and Sunset is their best album.
Not at all.
Okay,
no.
So I'm wrong. But this is their second best album, and of course this is the one that broke through in America. Beds Are Burning is such an unbelievably powerful song. If we're talking songs of 87, Can't Hardly Wait is my favorite. This is my second favorite song. It's just knocks the doors down and makes you fucking pay attention.
it's a really good album, and especially as a bit of social conscience music, I think it's really interesting.
By the way, did you know that I thought the lead singer of Midnight Oil was that guy from all the horror movies, like The Hills Have Eyes? I honestly, as a child, thought it was the same person. I can't remember his name. Michael Berryman.
No, I did not know that, and I've never seen the guy, so I would not have.
Later,
would not
just
be able to make
look
that
the two
connection.
up. They're clearly different, but when you're a child, you can't tell.
Well, it's like I really don't know anything about the hardships of the indigenous people of Australia, but this album really does paint a dark and vivid picture that it's like I'm pretty sure is probably still there, considering how how we treat our indigenous peoples of the U.S.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of going. It's definitely. I'm glad. It's one of the things I'm kind of glad I got a chance to listen to because, again, I don't know if I've heard them or not. I probably have. I'm sure that sometime, like my fiance likes occasionally while we're driving around, if we're listening to radio, she'll put a hand over the radio thing because it'll tell you who's playing on the radio. It's like put a hand on who's this, and most of the time it's obviously something I know, so I'm like, oh yeah, it's blah blah blah, and then there's been a couple of times where it's been shit, I don't know. That might have been one of those Midnight Oil songs for all I know, for all I remember.
All right, your turn.
Alrighty. My next album is gonna be Fields of the Nephilim, Dawnraiser.
You were on your own with this one. Oh boy.
Now, this is the sort of stuff that, as a fledgling goth high schooler, took me far away from what I thought could have been thought of as hot topic goth, even though at that time didn't really exist. But it took me from that into from mall goth into an actual full-fledged goth. Now, sure, there's the Crow soundtrack and Susie and the Banshees.
Do you have pictures of this? I want to see you dressed up like this.
Oh, I never dressed up.
Okay.
All my high school stuff looks very normal-ish. I'm sure I'm wearing like dark T-shirts and stuff, but I don't have any guy liner. I didn't darken my hair. But never smiled. But I was very much this gothy kid. Basically a lot of dark music and stuff. But basically, it's like there's a lot of these things that kind of are your gateways. Like I said, like the Crow soundtrack, Susie and the Banshees, The Cure, even Sisters of Mercy. But then I started finding stuff like this, Christian Death, Gene Loves Jezebel. And it starts to kind of open your eyes into essentially like the multitude of styles and stuff. Because this is very much like it kind of has like a weird, almost it's a kind of a goth country album almost in a way. Because you kind of have this their aesthetic at the time was very much like, oh yeah, we are. We're cowboys, we have the Stetsons and everything, and they're talking about Preacher Man and
you know what?
Dust and stuff like that.
I feel like I actually like this album, but I didn't take notes because I'm an asshole. There's one album here where I fucking bailed almost immediately, but I don't think it was this one now that you're talking about it. I thought this was something else. Go ahead.
But yeah, it's basically kind of has this, the voices are very Sisters of Mercy, but there's it's kind of like a little bit of The Cure in this as well. It's not oppressively dark or anything. It's you got like I said, Volcane, Preacher Man, Secrets. Power especially is the song that has the most country feel in it. And I kind of wish I had your side of it because I'm out of my notes.
I'm sorry.
But it is their debut album. They definitely changed their style as well. They go for a while into a lot more electronic, industrial style. But this I think is probably their most interesting album to listen to because it is such a departure. Plus, as I said, it's one of the first things that introduced me to a wider variety of music. But I think that'll be it for me.
Okay. So my next one is Document by REM. Basically their mainstream breakthrough. They had some college hits, and they were working their way, on their tour, gathering fans. But this is the one where it really seemed like IRS Records was putting some money behind them, made some good videos, and of course everybody knows It's the End of the World as We Know It. They don't really know the lyrics to it, which is a joke in Tommy Boy, but the one I love, I think, is the more powerful one. But it's just one of those, hey, they're finally starting to line up their sound. They're almost there. Out of Time, I think, is where they really cement who they are.
And as I say, I'm not a huge REM fan, but this album sunk its hooks into me quite a bit.
Yeah. I think Automatic for the People is their best, but yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah. Well, it's I barely even had to listen to this album for the show because I listened to this so many times throughout high school.
Oh, okay.
And granted, I started my interest in it because, as you said, the biggest earworm on this album is It's the End of the World as We Know It. But, Finest Work Song, the one I love, Welcome to the Occupation, Disturbance at the Heron House, all that stuff is solid, and I love those songs. Finest Work Song, I didn't, at the time I was, when that album came out, I wasn't paying attention to anything, so I didn't necessarily didn't know it was a single, but it makes sense that would have been a single off the album. I always just kind of felt like it was kind of a weird, not a B-side, but one of those tracks that, yeah, everyone knows these ones, and here's this, and, the one I love, of course, that's a single. But one of the, best songs of the album is this Finest Work Song that no one knows.
Yeah.
How little I knew at the time.
Well, you're talking about the first song. Let's talk about the last song real quick. Oddfellows Local 151. Do you know what an Oddfellows is? Do you have those where you live?
I don't.
Oddfellows, the first one I had seen was up in Portland, and I did a little bit of research on it. It's been a while, so I might have bad memories of this. But it has nothing to do with any unions. It has nothing to do with lodges, where it's very usually Christian and Republican at these lodges. Literally, Oddfellows seems to be set up for people, single guys who are just weird. It's just that we're Oddfellows, we just hang out and let's do stuff. And there's one just right over there in Milwaukee, Oregon. I've run into a couple others. I think I saw one up in Astoria. But it's just it's a place to hang out if you're lonely and odd.
Oh, man.
That's it for me, though.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, here's my next one is Motorhead's Rock and Roll.
Does he gargle with razor blades before he sings? Because I love the structure of his songs. I think they kick ass. But his voice is rough.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to, once again, read directly from my notes because I like how I set this up. I'm in the minority on this, but I don't think there are necessarily any bad Motorhead albums, just uninspired ones. Now that's an interesting way to start on an album, isn't it? No, Motorhead is a band that's seriously, they're consistent. Love them or hate them, they figured out what sound and style that they wanted to do, and they stuck with it. And they're a hard rock, heavy metal band, and this is specifically what you get off this album. Is this them at their best? Not really.
Yeah, that's the thing with hard rock and metal is there's almost always a formula.
Well, it's also part of the problem is they're overshadowed by the strength of Ace of Spades or Gasmatron. Hell, the live album No Sleep Till Hammersmith. You got all these albums that precede it that have such overpowering strength that you can't really. It's hard for you to do that again.
Right. It's the Dio curse, too. Dio had that problem.
Yeah. And that's just it. It's this album is pretty sick, even if the band feels that this was misproduced and rushed and isn't even their best work. But Rock and Roll, Traitor, The Wolf, Eat the Rich, all those songs are bangers. You have even Dogs has this funk and groove to it, which, it stands out in such a way that it it feels like Motorhead, but it doesn't feel like Motorhead. You even have like Stone Dead in the USA, which is lyrically really stupid, but it's hilarious. And there's also a sermon by Michael Palin.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That threw me off.
Yeah, just all of a sudden, they were recording at a studio that like was, I don't know if it was partially owned by him or owned by a friend of his, but it's like, hey, you want Michael Palin to come by? It's like, hell yeah. And he just kind of came in and he recorded the little sermon just for the shits and giggles of it. And on some, when I was listening to it on Spotify, it's attached. I think it's Stone Dead Forever. It's at the end of that. But on some record and CD cuts, it's its own little track. So, yeah.
This was an awkward silence where I have nothing to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Motorhead's amazing. As I said, I don't necessarily think there's a bad Motorhead album. Even the worst ones out there, if you want to call it that, are still got something in it where you're just can't help but headbang to it a little bit.
I have that with the Ramones.
Yeah, so I wasn't gonna put Ace of Spades or some of the like their bigger hits, but Rock and Roll is definitely one of those albums that has a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
There'll definitely be one showing up in the 90s. I guarantee you that.
Well, for me, my next album selection is going to be a band that's not going to go away for a long time. In fact, every single album after this might make the list. And it's Red Hot Chili Peppers with the Uplift Mofo Party Plan. God, that's hard to say when you're a mush mouth. Uplift. Like when I try to say that, my teeth would rub against my lip. Funny. This is when they're really funky, they're really goofy, they're not single-oriented, so it's hard for me just to say, hey, this is these songs, this, and this. It's a whole vibe. This feels like I literally made for a party that they're just going to jam in someone's fucking garage while everybody gets boozed on the beach. That's the feel. It's bouncy, it's fun, it's wild.
I wasn't digging this one.
It's okay,
it was
go ahead.
not my bag. Now, but it's like I was reading about the background on this, and this was recorded during the time where Kiedis's drug addiction was like at its height, and it kind of shows because it really doesn't feel like it's focused in any
No,
way.
it's not, and I think that's part of the charm for me is that it's just like this goofball. It feels like one whole song. Does that make sense? Like it's cut up into pieces. Like how Dream Theater, they have a 42-minute song, but it has different chunks of it, which is basically like those are the singles. That's the way this album feels. It feels like just someone jam session, and they just randomly flow in and out of different styles.
Yeah, it's like Behind the Sun is great, and I love it. But this album also has a cover of Bob Dylan's Subterranean Homesick Blues that is god awful. Like, oh my god, I want to stab out my ears listening to it. Sort of reaction to it. Just bad choice, guys. Especially because they will do. Well, especially because later on, I think it's their next album too. They do the Stevie Wonder cover.
Oh yeah, Higher Ground.
Yeah, and that's such a great cover. It's like far more in their style and everything. So, yeah, not for me, but. Heck, you know what? If you dig it, you dig it, right?
Yep. To be fair, I listen to a lot of these while I'm doing something else. I don't know if you do. I'm usually working out or I'm playing video games. So sometimes it's just a feel.
No, I fully I try to engross myself in it and create an environment in which I can.
Well, you're a better person than I. Which has been proven over and over with this show. Acting.
Music is how we do it. Anytime there's some stuff that I'm solidly trying to absorb. Yeah, I sit down and give it my time. Otherwise, if it's just something I'm going to listen to, then yeah, it does go off in the background. I've been listening to the Devin Townsend. All of his albums lately, and that's kind of been my background music for gaming and stuff. So, some cases, stuff I technically maybe have only heard for the first time, and but it's background music because I'm not trying, like in this, I'm trying to analyze, and it's homework. If I'm going to use the horrible H word, but I'm taking more time into it instead of enjoying the music.
Yeah, music's not meant to be enjoyed. Who are we talking about? It's supposed to be criticized, and that's it.
Anyway, Anthrax, Among the Living. That's my next one.
Another one that was going to make my list, damn you.
Oh, man. Yeah, because, that's just it. Okay. This, when we talked about the heavy metal albums of 86, where I was going, like, there's the three albums I would love to have talked about, but at the same time, they're the biggest friggin' albums of all time. Technically, Among the Living belongs in that thing because it is the big four.
Uh-huh.
And those Megadeth's Peace Sells, Metallica's Master of Puppets, Slayer's Reign in Blood, those are like their defining albums to me. Anthrax's Among the Living is probably that for me as well. Definitely is their best album in the 80s. But if I was going to do it, I would also fight with Sound of White Noise.
Right, that's probably... Once, was it John DeBell was the lead singer? Once he left and got replaced with the lead singer of Armored Saint, that's when I'm in.
Yeah, this is such an amazing album, though, because, it's like, sure, the previous album, Spreading the Disease, would make you take notice of them, but this is the beginning of a line of some of their best stuff.
Yeah, it's more complicated than it was before, yeah.
Yeah, they start doing hit after hit after hit album after this point, starting with this. And it's a brutal, badass, attack on your senses. It's dedicated to Cliff Burton, who died in 86, Metallica's bassist, one of the best bassists of all time, at least in metal.
Yeah. Let's say metal because we would have to count Bootsy Collins.
Yeah, there's so many amazing bassists, but yeah, in metal, he was one of the. He was a huge figure in the thrash community. So it was like when he died, everyone took it, hard, And so, let's also be honest. Among the Living is such a timely song because it's about the book The Stand, the Stephen King novel.
It is,
and of course about Captain Trips.
Holy shit! How did I catch this?
Oh yeah, it's kind of a retelling of The Stand because it's Among the Living he's talking about being the man, the Man in Black. He's Randall Flagg, and they're talking about he's riding around with Captain Trips. Yeah, it's all about The Stand. Caught in the Mosh. That just makes you want to jump in the pit and just fuck someone up.
Yeah. That's, I think, the very first time I heard them. It was either that or the Public Enemy song that I heard first. I can't remember which one. No, I'm the Man is the first one I heard from them.
Yeah, it's like I Am the Law, which is based off of Judge Dredd, which also makes me... It kind of surprises me that it was never in the Stallone film.
Right.
That was perfectly timed... Well, this came out before, but it's... the perfect thing to have in that movie.
Yeah, well, Scott Ian was a huge movie buff. I remember he was on one of those VH1, how they said it from, what's it called? I Love the 80s, where he talks about horror movies a lot, and you can see the influence in their music.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it kind of shows how kind of geeky these guys are, too. Just how much, like, Metallica was the people who had the overall thought. They basically had like the deeper themes and meanings. Slayer was the people who scared your parents. Megadeth was actually a little more politically oriented. Anthrax were the fun guys. But ironically, talking about this, there's things like, I say fun and then I go NFL. Eiffel Niku Fessman.
Yeah.
If you spell it backwards, nice fucking life.
It's how it's not so much the subject matter, it's how they presented the song, which made them more fun.
Yeah. But it's like that's about John Belushi's drug addiction and death. I mean, Skeletons in the Closet is based off of Apt Pupil. Indians, we talked about Midnight Oil. Indians is about the troubles of our Native Americans and all the shit that they were going through. It's like, my God, this was a. Now I don't want to necessarily say it's a perfect album, but it's a damn. If it's not perfect, it's damn near close. Especially for thrash.
I got nothing else
But what
to
do you
say.
got next?
I can't believe we're at an hour. I can't believe I'm so tired already. I'm old. My next album is Dokken Back for the Attack, which I looked this up, and Back for the Attack was only the name of the album, and then later on a second repressing, they decided to make a song called Back for the Attack, which sounds so stupid. Hey, AC/DC, you should probably put a song in there for those about the rock. We salute you. You should probably put a song in there actually with that title in it. Oh, that sounds like a good idea. Well, what was Dokken thinking? But it's really, this is, I didn't realize I liked Dokken. I only knew him for the Dream Warriors song, and I don't go for falsetto very much. But this is a nice balance. And I think they're kind of underrated. They're forgotten from this era because they didn't play the teeny bop. They weren't Poison or Motley Crue or whatever. They were just their own thing.
Yeah, and that's really, like, I'll say this, the album doesn't set the world on fire, but it also doesn't feel like it's a retread of the previous album.
Right.
It feels like it's a band, it's a record by a band that's trying to grow musically. It's completely solid, even though I would say, and this is like maybe the harshest way I'm going to phrase this, I don't mean this in the worst way, it's kind of unremarkable in that. Like, if you like Dokken, 100% this is worth owning. If you like this style of music, this is 100% worth owning. Like, it's basically the problem with this album is that it kind of feels safe. And I'm not looking for them to also become Wasp or something like that, but it kind of feels like any of the fangs that Dokken had in previous albums kind of got removed.
Well, I was looking at the production behind this, and they said it was one of the worst productions they'd ever gone through, and it nearly destroyed the band. And when it was over with, they had kind of a meeting to go, look, we need to control this and not have another producer pushing us fat. Because they had put this out so way too soon after the last album, they didn't have enough material, and it was just kind of a patchwork album. So that's probably why it has no real focus.
It has this sheen of corporate homogeny. That it's like the previous album that we listened to didn't.
Right.
It's a solid album. It's well, quote unquote, well produced and all that stuff. But that's kind of its problem too, is that it's, it kind of feels like a lot of what makes a band great got a little covered by the production design. But yeah, it's a very enjoyable record. I like it. It's got, let's be honest, Dream Warriors is one of those songs that sucks, but because it's so perfectly cheesy that you love it.
Well, it was also from a hit movie, and that's what kind of what sticks around.
Yeah. But it's like, Heaven Sent, So Many Tears, Mr. Scary, those are really good tracks.
Mm-hmm.
I dig the album quite a bit.
All right, so that's it for that album. We're to our last albums. What almost made your list?
Well, two of the things that made your list that were on mine, since you've mentioned some of the stuff that I stole from you, you did do REM's Document and the Colts Electric, which I did think about doing. I did contemplate doing Dead Milkman's Bucky Fellini. White Zombie's Soul Crusher, their debut album.
I didn't even know they were around back then. I missed that.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, the reason why I didn't do it is because those albums really do suck.
Okay.
It took them a while to become worth listening to, and that was kind of sadly near the end of the White Zombie career. But I had mentioned Sisters of Mercy Floodland when I did the previous album. And, yeah, still thought about it and then decided not to. King Diamond's Abigail, Napalm's debut Scum, Skinny Puppy's Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate. One day Skinny Puppy will make my list. Public Enemy's Yo Bum Rush the Show.
Yeah, I thought about that one too, yeah.
Death's Scream Bloody Gore. Boogie Down Productions' Criminal Minded.
Ah, that was on mine too.
Frontline Assembly's Initial Command. And Butthole Surfer's Locust Abortion Technician.
Ew, good lord. What was on my list?
I tried to listen to it, and that was not good.
Boogie Down Productions. I had Dio, Dream Evil, which I think is the last good Dio album for a very long time. When he started going to like the murky stuff, I'm not with him. Fat Boys Crushin', Def Leppard Hysteria, Ramones Halfway to Sanity, I think it was. I can't remember. I only wrote down notes. Alice Cooper, Raise Your Fist and Say Yeah. Those are the ones on mine.
Okay. That would have been interesting to talk about the Alice Cooper one. And of course, as I said, Boogie Down Productions were both on our minds.
So what's our last one for you?
My last one is The Legacy by Testament.
I am almost there with Testament. You give it a couple of years and I'm in. But it's still good, but it's not in my wheelhouse yet.
Well, that's the thing. Is they really hit their own in the 90s. Like that's kind of where, and then early to mid 2000s, I think they're also really strong, and they're still going. They still got some good stuff, but the early to mid 2000s also become kind of really good. But it's a band where I feel like if you were to expand the big four of thrash to 5. Now, there's some people that say Overkill should be in that spot.
Oh, it's Testament.
Absolutely. One or two poor bastards might say Death Angel. There's a lot of people that probably go with Exodus, which makes a lot of sense, especially considering they're tied to Metallica. But yeah, I go Testament 100%. And if for nothing else, vocalist Chuck Billy fought and kicked the shit out of cancer.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, in 2001, he was diagnosed with germ cell seminoma. Ended up having a tumor near his heart, with chemo and everything. He beat it, and he's still rocking hard.
Good.
But that's the thing. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, they've been solid, consistent, and that's the thing. Is this debut shows that. Like, this is there's a little bit of that early Metallica feel to things like Over the Wall and Burnt Offerings. But overall, yeah, this is just it's a solid album beginning to end, and it's a solid thrash album. And it feels like I feel bad that they've never got the due that they really should have until like the later part of their career, really. They're only bigger now than they were ever.
That's the funniest thing about metal is they never really seem to lose fans. They just gain them. Whereas other genres, it's not the same.
Yeah, well, if you're good enough in metal, you find you're able to not only just maintain what you do, but as styles and attitudes change, people start kind of going, oh yeah, hey, this is really good. Oh, what did they do before? Oh, they've always been good. We've just never noticed it because the world wasn't ready for it at that time. Plus, there's always disaffected youth in every decade. True, and we all need something to be angry about and some, the type of music to go and punch someone in the face to.
All right, so it's my turn.
It is your turn.
All right. One. This is the album, the very first album I ever bought. I listened to 1,000,000 times, especially on the bus. This is like the only cool album that I had that I could take with to school and be like, "What are you listening to? Weird Al? What the fuck?" Like before Weird Al was cool. I'm listening to the Indiana Jones and the Temple, or the what's the second one called? The Temple of Doom soundtrack.
Temple of Doom.
Weirdo. It's like it's so In Excess was one that just, and I know it was huge. You try not to do the huge albums. But I just couldn't help myself. This is still regularly played in my life, and every single song pretty much nails it on the head. I don't like the opener so much, Guns in the Sky. I think it's kind of just a, hey, let's warm it up. It's kind of a waste song. But you're just fucking hit after hit after hit. New Sensation, of course, is fun. It's poppy, but then it gets more like almost a Doors influence, a little darker and moodier, but not excessive the way the Doors could be. New Sensation, of course, is the, like I said, the big one. But Devil Inside, Need You Tonight, Never Tear Us Apart, Mystify, Calling All Nations. I mean, there's some other stuff in there, but those are all just like I know them by like the back of my fucking hand.
Well, it's like, yeah, New Sensations I really dug. Nice new wavy. I did not like Guns in the Sky at all, because especially like, I'll read Drake minutes. Oh, that opening ooh and uhs don't make me happy.
It felt like a waste of time. Just get to don't even bother with that. Just get to the song.
Devil Inside, I love that track. Need You Tonight was huge. Meditate, I like musically because I think it's nice and ethereal and it's interesting to hear, but it's stupid when you actually pay attention to the lyrics.
Well, you remember the video, Mediate is actually what it's called, but Mediate, it's the one where he has the cards like Bob Dylan had, and that thing got played to fucking death on MTV. I bet you that video cost $10.
It's like the Loved One. I wasn't big on because it's this blues rock song.
Yeah, it's
and
fine.
So far, like everything prior to it was like very synthy new wave. But then you also have Never Tears Us Apart, which is also blues rock, but it fits more in their style.
Well, and I believe they designed this for the cassette or the album. So if I remember correctly, it ended on the Loved One, and then you flip it over and it kicks ass again with Wildlife.
Okay. That would make sense.
The whole album should have started off with Wildlife or Kick or something like that. Calling All Nations. Calling All Nations would have been a much better way to start the album than Guns in the Sky. Guns in the Sky is a bullshit track.
Yeah, that feels like it should have been cut. Like I hate it. I will say this, I do hate it when an album's first cut is usually like the best song on the album, because I usually do feel that you should. I do believe in leading, best foot forward sort of stuff, but also don't don't prematurely ejaculate in front of me. I want a build up to something amazing.
Right.
It's like if you're going to let me, if you're taking me on this journey, I want to have a fun ride throughout it. The best albums are ones that have rises and falls. Sure, you don't want to have front loaded with all your best material and your back half be garbage, but you want to have a good balance.
Right. It should be like a movie. Albums should be designed just like movies. You have an opening sequence to entice you, to bring you in. You get the plot going, then you have the big numbers, the big action sequences, or the singles, whatever, and then you end great.
Yeah, that just makes you go like, oh wow, it's a song. Do I really want to keep listening to this album?
Yeah.
Do I have I start having regrets here. I'm going, nope, I must power through it, and thus I did, and thus it is. The album is very entertaining. It's very fun. It makes sense why this album was a big hit. But yeah, it's like that first taste though was not.
But thank God it makes up for it later. I still, to this day, will find myself just randomly going dun 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 dun. It's such a great bass line. I was humming that at work like 10 years ago, and some girl that was way younger than me said, "I know that song. That's Devil Inside." I go, "You know In Excess?" And she goes, "Yeah, my parents listen to that album all the time." I was like, "Son of a bitch, I'm old."
Like, I'm going to have to hurt you, child, because you made me feel old. I'm glad you know this stuff, but damn you for what you did to me.
But that's my final pick for 1987 and the flat out best album of the year in my opinion. What was your best out of the 10, you think?
My favorite album? Actually, I'll probably go with the Ice-T, Rhyme Phase.
That's a shock to me, honestly, but okay.
Yeah, it's hard to pick because there's some solid stuff. Like I said, Anthrax is, oh man, I love the Anthrax one. Pink Floyd is such a good one.
Yeah.
Hell, even Kiss Me Kiss Me. But you know what? As a piece, as a whole conceptual piece, Rhyme Pays would probably.
All right. Well, those are our top 10. Check us out on Facebook under Hit Rewind Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.